The Fifth Dimension. By J. J. Goldstein. Chapter 6. The Book of Institutions. On World, Alternatives, and Artifice. In the realm of comprehension, were individuals privy to the genesis of the world, their initial impulse would be to adapt and partake, only to find themselves censured, besieged, and ultimately expunged from the creation process. Many would succumb to powerlessness and despair and relinquish not only their own lives, but the lives of their progeny. Regardless, I shall divulge the manner in which creation transpired, leaving you to navigate this revelation at your discretion. The veracity of the world's existence is tenuous, a concatenation bereft of inherent coherence. Age and time, as well as meaning, are but abstract constructs. The corporeal realm acquiesces to the rigors of age and the dictates of time, albeit solely in the eyes of its denizens, bereft of transcendent importance. The human populace languishes in exclusion, their voices stifled, their actions curtailed, their cognition subjected to torment, leaving them bereft of even a rudimentary grasp of the system's machinations. The denizens of Italy remained oblivious when the land was ceded to Karl the Bald in 875, just as Barrett remained unaware of its subjugation to the dominion of bedchamber Victoria in 1858. All societal constructs are patently unnatural. To speak of the United Kingdom or the Frankenreich, France, with greater legitimacy than the British Raj or the bygone Burgundy borders on the surreal. For the architects of this reality, it is naught but an elaborate procession. What remains to hold on for dear sanity is meager indeed. From a repository of 50,000 narratives and a scant 4,000 noteworthy annals, we have derived but little. One God, one tongue, one saga, the ancients, the triumvirate ages, dark, middle, and modern, postmodernity, and now, the epoch of revelation, these are the sanctioned edifices. They could have been the Chinese dynasties, the Germanic sagas, the Hindu dominions, but those were vanquished, erased, relegated to oblivion. The modus operandi persists unaltered. The overlords of this world dismantle the targeted civilization, obliterate their cultures, and then assert that those civilizations wrought their own demise, or that their cultures waned in appeal. They are cognizant that they were the agents of slaughter, the usurpers of lands, the plunderers of resources, the arsonists of libraries and archives. It is metaphorical, both for you and your progeny. Property has been outlawed. The state reigns supreme. Free movement has been criminalized. Borders and passports are the yoke. Multiplicity has been proscribed. To each his solitary vocation. Justice has been monopolized. The state exercises all the violence. Liberty of expression has been banished. Hate speech laws decree. Diversity has been proscribed. They say all human beings stand equal. Sovereignty has been revoked. Foreign dominion prevails. Yet, paramount above all, they have nullified the law of difference, the very key to unlocking the fifth dimension. Mass humanity, bereft of the resources and the consent to individuate, finds itself bereft of the capacity to create. This oppressive apparatus looms colossal, meticulously tended. The sovereigns cultivate their subjects within precincts they may not forsake without due leave. They toil, ingest prescribed sustenance, enact prescribed rituals, select prescribed vocations, and acquiesce to their silencing, all in service to the dominion. What once pertained merely to the corporeal realm, now has perturbed the metaphysical. The subjects, as well as all subjugated souls, must remain estranged from the fifth dimension. They must not conceive ages, eras, realms, archives, rites, or any novel conception of their own accord. 20,000 courses of erudition for tens of millions of scholars, and from these scholars emerges, naught. 2 million programmers within our sanctuaries of computation, and from these programmers emerges, naught. The laurels are reserved for a scant cadre of supreme creators, and thus the empire persists, with no ingress for others. This extends to the annulment of foreign ideologies. Whosoever, in any corner of the world, endeavors to resurrect paradises such as Eden, Nirvana, the Pure Land, Shangri-La, or any other utopia, Camelot, Elysium, Euphoria, the Dreamlands, and the like, shall be promptly exiled, expunged, and disintegrated. In the realm of the heretic, all resources required to sustain his illicit creations shall be confiscated, leading him to confront the terminus of his mortal coil. In the event of his compliance and tranquility, a meager reprieve may be granted, allowing him to eke out his remaining years subsisting on welfare and engaging in menial community labors. There exists no discernible cohort of foreign citizens retaining access to the fifth dimension. Our institutions of learning and public amenities maintain vigilant oversight over every human entity. None possessing dissenting cogitations can endure this crucible into maturity, nor ascend to positions of influence, nor circumvent the artifice of the contrived human enclave. The servitors of bondage and the sentinels of humanity are bereft of intellect, meriting comparison to mere automatons following imperatives akin to soldiers and constabulary. Yet, even the exalted functionaries, the generals and ministers within this system, bear semblance to artificial personae, their intellectual faculties failing to commensurate with their ostensible stations. Much like fiat currency, dispensed in remuneration for their services, they are endowed with fiat notions implanted within their minds. The professor who proffered the notion of animal cognition did not originate that conception, nor did it germinate within his intellect. He received fiat remuneration for his professorship, and subsequently, fiat ideas were sown within his cognition, accompanied by a book contract and an expansive distribution network. Works of chance receive fiat authorship. The Song of the Nibelungs lacks a progenitor, yet it stands as the foundational opus of the Germanic race. Socrates purported the founding of philosophy, yet he laid no such foundational cornerstone. The greater the fabrication, the more resounding the mirth. This redistribution of wealth, positions, and ideas ensures that no individual may ever reap the fruits of his own ruminations and ingenuity, akin to how no bovine may aspire to harvest its own cheese. It follows, then, that all roles and functions within human society may be occupied by candidates devoid of the requisite qualifications. Qualifications are but facets of license, and as we have iterated afore, license is wholly illusory, a chimera born of the fifth dimension. This can be tested at any juncture, and it is, indeed, tested ubiquitously, when a person of diminished faculties substitutes for a bona fide educator, engendering no discernible disparity, or when a school dropout with authentic aptitude supplants a pedigreed scholar, to no palpable distinction. What precipitates a divergence is the influence of the fifth dimension and its capacity to reap discrimination. The demonstration in question manifests in the wholesale obliteration of that civilization and culture, leaving us to contemplate what has been forfeited, naught. Everything was a fabrication in vain, and nary a truth ever came to pass. We may anoint fungi as presidents and reanimate billboards to symbolize Cocaine and New Jerusalem. We may converse in the lexicon of the horse lords or the elves, or even employ clicking sounds. It avails not to the fifth dimension, which constitutes the paramount concern. A people may perish, but the dimension endures. Who could have surmised that humans are not the sovereigns of this realm? The true creators are. They transcend humanity. What have you fashioned, if not mere production? A profusion of it, akin to livestock or assembly line laborers. The genetic code for creation, possessed by the psychers, eludes you. Thus, you emulate what you have been instructed. If realism is your charge, realism you shall manifest. If expressionism is your decree, expressionism you shall render. The compliant adhere to this dictate, while the dissenting, in an act of robust protest, oscillate between conservative realism and abstract expressionism, but no further or beyond. The populace may perceive themselves as embodying some form of opposition, yet this opposition is regulated and duly accounted for. Were there a genuine opposition, it would have been extirpated long hence, akin to terrorists, rapists, or mass murderers. We have culled more souls than the natural toll of time. In light of the imperative to furnish the creators, those who emanate from the fifth dimension, every human harboring proximity to them poses a security risk. Below is a succinct catalogue of topics they dare not broach, nor deliberate, in any from the fifth dimension, the great portals, the super-creators, the law of difference, the world rulers, human farming, the spurious annals, and the fabricated reality. Hence, they endeavor to communicate in veiled parlance or satirize their predicament, or invoke names to safeguard against the specter of annihilation or solitary confinement. Entire nations have been besieged, 52 within the past 2 decades alone, for the mere act of breaking the silence surrounding this oppressive cloth. In the realm of public discourse, one may ascertain the veracity of these assertions at any juncture, with any ostensible authority or so-called luminary of public thought. They are, without exception, remunerated marionettes, purporting to critique our ostensibly humane world. Yet, their discourse invariably hinges on the citation and invocation of established names. None dare venture forth with original thoughts, for the enforcers would soon descend to apprehend them, ushering them before judges, prosecutors, and legislative representatives. The thought police of East Germany numbered 620,000, while their Western counterparts tallied 80,000. America now boasts more thought police agents than writers. Publishers across the globe fall under state control, rendering genuine creative autonomy an illusory construct. In the 1950s, the Kenyan aspiration for a Kenyan world met with massacre, much akin to the plight of contemporary Palestinians. In the 1980s, the Japanese endeavor to resurrect their own cultural narrative was abruptly severed from the global economic framework. Every author is constrained to reference so-called reliable sources, thus divesting them of their own creative agency. In certain marginalized nations, this practice has been taken to such extremes that each paragraph must perforce incorporate mention of leaders, the prevailing discourse, the reigning ideology, and, invariably, the rhetoric of democracy and the rule of law, despite the palpable absence of these phenomena. Witnessing these hapless agents parroting untruths, engaging in mindless repetition, and adhering to the edicts laid forth by the creators, ought to evoke a sense of profound lamentation. The functionaries of the system are issued explicit directives to advance prescribed causes and endorse specific individuals, ensuring their identities become common knowledge. True free markets are but an illusion. All declarations regarding the purported agency of individuals are mendacious. The sustenance you consume is precisely that which is stocked upon the shelves, precisely within the distribution network they oversee. Your agency in this matter is illusory. Even the two purported choices of sustenance derive from a singular enterprise, and are distributed upon identical shelves. Should you endeavor to introduce your own sustenance to those shelves, you will face arrest. Should you establish your own distribution network, you will face arrest. Should you expose the corruption of said distribution network, you will be arrested. Should you harbor doubts, deny, or contest any facet of the regimen imposed upon you, be prepared not only for arrest, but to be branded a terrorist, a mass murderer, a misstep to be rectified, a prescription not merely of death, but of total annihilation extending to every kin, confidant, and acquaintance. Immediate public disavowal is mandated, lest you be devoured by those who feast upon infants and partake in cannibalistic rituals. This process is euphemistically termed purification or cleansing, a grand disposal that has befallen billions before us who harbor doubts, denials, or apostasy. Hence, the establishment of alternative nations, systems, governance structures, media outlets, institutions, belief systems, and voices rests solely within the legal purview of the world's rulers and their associates, and no others. In France of the Fifth Republic, it is deemed illegal under threat of penal servitude to extol the virtues of the First, Second, Third, or Fourth Republic. One should harbor no trust for new entrants, regardless of their avowals of championing freedom, for they were not independent entities. They were enabled by the rulers, endorsed by the arbiters of the earth, monetized by the system, and bolstered by the prevailing regime. One may put this to the test when a foreign system, government, media outlet, institution, or belief system endeavors to establish itself here, though there are precious few such entities left, given the systematic eradication of races and competitors. In response, the 24 global corporations that dictate the course of the world economy mobilize to vanquish this alternative contender. 10 million soldiers, armed with tanks, warships, and nuclear armaments, stand poised to obliterate not only the foreign creator, but his familial lineage, his city, his nation, and every vestige of his people's legacy, extending back millennia. As evinced in the annihilation of the last Chinese dynasty, the Aztecs, the Kaiserreichs, the Great Khalifa, the Greeks, the Romans, the Egyptians. Simultaneously, the 5 or 6 media conglomerates that hold sway over information, news, and public sentiment worldwide are unleashed to disseminate rumors, slander, and the most inhumane allegations. This trickles down to 20,000 secondary and tertiary media outlets, which propagate the directive to boardrooms, offices, and decision-makers across the globe, ensuring that all comprehend the dire consequences of deviating from the mandates of global propaganda, mirroring the fate of the targeted regime. Resistance is futile, dissent is criminal, disobedience is a death sentence. We are bereft of any alternative worlds, alongside the potential for millions of worlds that have never come to fruition. This penal system yields a jarring dissonance amongst those who retain vestiges of alternative ideas, eternally at odds with the prevailing, official narrative. In the annals of history, the Anglo-Saxons, driven by motives untold, enacted a sequence of unprecedented subjugation and conquest. They perpetrated the annihilation of North American natives, followed by the dispossession of Mesoamerican territories, the subjugation of Australian aboriginals, and the enslavement of African Americans. Their dominion extended to the Scandinavian realms, where they imposed their rule upon the blue-skinned denizens, and across the Asian expanse, subduing the yellow-skinned populace. In the Middle East, they rained destruction upon the desert-dwelling inhabitants, culminating in the fateful atomic incursion upon the people of Nippon. Subsequently, they turned upon their brethren, the Germans, in a cruel twist of fate. Astonishingly, we are informed by the world rulers that it was all these very peoples who bore culpability for their own misfortunes, along with the 200 regions subjected to bombardment or regime change. In the domains where humans are reared like cattle, the awareness of the creators is non-existent, and they dare not utter their names. Within the confines of the totalitarian European Union, bereft of any semblance of democratic mandate, it is deemed unlawful to suggest that such a mandate was never bestowed. To posit the existence of chambers where edicts are forged by the powerful is to court accusations of conspiracy, for these chambers ostensibly cannot exist. It is well within reason to contend that Biden and Blinken harbor aspirations of dominion over economies, sea routes, and airspace. It is deemed absurd to propose that Biden and Blinken harbor ambitions of global hegemony. While it is palpably evident that Goldman and Gates trillionaires are amassing vast real estate holdings, it is dismissed as folly to posit that Goldman and Gates's aim was to lay claim to the land. A global inquisition has been erected to suppress heresy, the very heresy being the assertion of a worldwide inquisition. The term leader has been expunged from the lexicon in Europe, for the existence of leaders is deemed a stratagem propagated by separatists and terrorists, purveyors of nefarious designs upon the innocence of young girls and the integrity of our sustenance supplies. Their clubs, corporations, financial institutions, and recreational pursuits have been commandeered by the super-creators, transformed into state-of-the-art correctional facilities. Censorship does not exist, proclaims the Constitution, while the prosecution grinds forth, there are laws governing censorship. Every alternative realm has been usurped, despoiled, extinguished, subjugated by the rapacious hordes of the world rulers. This dominion extends beyond foreign governments to foreign domains, laying claim to lands, resources, pricing mechanisms, sea lanes, airspace, planning, administration, entertainment industries, publishing empires, scholarly journals, cinematic enterprises, television networks, radio waves, the expanse of the Internet, the realm of social media, and all patents, concepts, and innovations. These have all been supplanted by a select cadre of super-creators, who shall brook no challengers. Competition, let it be known, is viewed as aggressive, expansionist, criminal, and extremist, and must be preempted, crippled, and proscribed from all the domains aforementioned. To further abase humanity, the super-creators fabricate outlandish motives, fixed social strata, inequitable trade pacts, ceaseless violence against advocates of freedom. They then reverse course, attributing these circumstances to evolution, nature, or the invisible hand, placing blame upon the afflicted for their purported inadequacies in the marketplace of ideas, or casting them as malevolent populists and seducers deserving of purging. Thus, the earth serves as both the best possible place for the world rulers in a realm of torment and despair for the humans, ensnared in perpetual trepidation and discord, their existence manipulated by alien forces, beset by conflict, contradiction, and confusion at every turn. The super-creators are poised to tend to the humans as one might tend to a farm, for without such care, the imperative of distinction falters. Can you fathom the gravity of this? Their patience and forbearance with humanity has reached its terminus.